How's it going, YouTube? It's Dan. I'm back again from Typology Gifts. And I see this question come up sometimes on MBTI groups out on the internet. I think it's been talked a little bit about on YouTube, but not a terrible lot. And that is the question of, where do you find an INFJ male? So I thought, well, I'm an INFJ male. I am places. I should be able to explain where I am and help other people who are trying to find INFJs, assuming you're interested in that type of person and you want to form relationships with those types of people. So here we go. Let's get going. So number one, I've got it up here, is home. So you can pretty much guarantee that an INFJ is going to be spending like the majority of their time at home. And I think, I don't know what it is about home, but it's like predictable and safe, and it's a place where I can be myself and no one else is telling me what to do, and no one else is trying to control what I do with my time and or where I position my furniture for energy flow, or just it's a sanctuary, and it's where I do all my work and thinking and reading and relaxation and things like that. So I think from talking to other INFJs, I think it's pretty common thing for INFJs to be very particular about their setting, like what is immediately around them while they work or while they think or while they sleep. And it's kind of like it's like the INFJs like building their own system of how they're gonna live to reduce the amount of TE that they have to use because we don't like, you know, putting together furniture and stuff like that. We'd prefer to just everything be like ready to go within our reach. Like if I need something, like if I'm thirsty, like I got a bottle of water right here. Let's just keep that next to my desk, and I refill my bottle here. And that's kind of like, that's part of what is like being at home means having everything I need because I've thought about my whole like system. That doesn't help you though if you're trying to find an INFJ male. But what it does tell you is that if you see an INFJ male out in public, if you are able to figure out that it is an INFJ male, just know that they came out fairly intentional. Like most likely they came out very intentionally to be out there and to do something or for some purpose, because there has to be a motivation for them to actually want to leave the comfort of their own home. So number one is home. 2 is at work. So you might have coworkers that are INFJs, and here's where you might find INFJs in places you wouldn't normally find them, probably. So if you have a company, if you work at a company that's maybe 500 employees, like there might be 2 or 3 INFJ males in there somewhere. That's kind of like a needle in a haystack. But probably they'll be doing something involved with people. So they could be in an HR role, they could be in a creative role. They're probably in a situation where they have autonomy, unless they're forced into this situation because they need money. So it really depends on like the stage of the INFJ's life. Like I did 7 years at Walmart, so for a good chunk of my younger years, you could find me behind a cash register, or you know, at a service desk, or working in electronics or toys or something like that. I also did serving. I also painted on a rooftop, and so I've done a variety of different things. You probably wouldn't find INFJs in a mechanics workshop, like as one of the mechanics. I don't think you would, you know. So that just give you an idea. Where you'll find INFJs. Actually, I made a video about jobs for INFJs, so I'm going to link that in the video. I don't know if I can do that on this screen. I'll figure out a way to link you to the video I made, which covered different jobs that you could think about for as an INFJ. So if you're wanting to know what kind of jobs an INFJ might be at, you could go watch that video. All right, so number 3 is some kind of religious setting. INFJs are not necessarily traditional in the sense where they're duty bound, but they are spiritual, typically, I think. And whether or not they're in a church is probably going to be dependent on if they grew up in that and if that's what they were taught, like from a young age. So like for me, I was taught fundamental Baptist from birth. And so I attended church for the first 30 years of my life. Now I'm 37. So I only stopped going to church like recently, fairly recently, compared to the whole like length of my life. And it was sort of like because I had all of these spiritual interests, and I still do, about the metaphysical and like what's behind the curtain, and as far as how the universe works and how it got here and things like that. Those are all really big fundamental questions, and religions try to answer the questions. And so I was fairly endlessly fascinated by religion in the sense that I studied a lot about Christianity, but then as I got older, I started studying other religions. So my point is, you may find INFJs in church. It's probably not as likely as, say, many other types, but at least don't count church or a religious institution of some kind out, because INFJs are so very interested in the metaphysical that they see religion as one like avenue into that interest. So that's something to think about. So where's another place? How about in an artistic setting? So you would probably expect like somebody with dominant introverted intuition to be in touch with their subconscious quite a bit. And those types of people tend to seem to gravitate more towards creativity and like sort of having realizations, coming to new conclusions. And I think I've found that a lot of INFJs have some kind of background in the arts. It could be writing. As every INFJ I've ever met is also a writer. But you might find them in the visual arts because they have a keen eye to composition and understanding. Yeah, I'd say composition most of all. INFJs may not have the strength of artistic ability that SI users would have, for example, when it comes to details, things they've seen, I think, like, I dated a girl when I was in college. She was also an artist. I think she was an ISTJ, and she had an incredible eye for detail. Like, I couldn't come close to the kinds of paintings and pieces that she was able to make. So I eventually gravitated more towards digital arts. But at that time, I did study, like, commercial art. I did typography and drawing classes and painting classes and things like that. So I've spent a decent chunk of my life, a decent chunk of my time in my youth in artistic settings where people were doing art, where I was doing art and things like that. So if you were looking for an INFJ male, that might be one place that you would find them. And this goes for museums and other places that are like houses of the arts, film school. The next place, number 5, is out in nature. So, that's a trickier one. If you just see somebody wandering around in a forest preserve or something, or at a park, you don't really know anything about that person, but it very well may just be a stray INFJ that's lost in thought and contemplating the mysteries of the universe, and soaking in through their inferior extrovert sensing just tons of energy from the trees and the grass and the animals and the water and the air, and they're just soaking that all in and letting it calm their soul. I feel like I'm gonna cry right now. And so that's just, nature is a very needed part of a healthy INFJ's constitution, or their I guess they're not constitution, that's the wrong word for it, but I mean like their regimen is it's important that an INFJ gets a lot of face time with Mother Nature, and so that's where you're going to see. That's just one of the places that an INFJ will be. Of course, I would be remiss to mention places with books. So this could be bookstore or library or school library or something like that. It could be, just any place that has a lot of books is going to be interesting to an INFJ, because there's just so much to look at and think about, and so many interesting books. It's so hard to choose, because you're like, there's too many for me to read in one lifetime, and it's that makes it so hard to decide. But yeah, places with books. That's where INFJs are going to be. Protesting. I go and protest sometimes. This person says, I like my internet like I like my country, free and open. I think that's a very INFJ probably way of thinking about things. They want to see freedom. They want everyone to be able to be autonomous and be themselves, and they don't want the system to control those people. They don't like injustice, so there's a lot of INF types that are it's kind of like understood, I think, in the MBTI community, that the INF types are going to be like social justice warriors, and that may be true to some degree. It's kind of like when you see, like, I think that the INFPs and INFJs both like probably skew really heavily towards social justice warrior kind of stuff, and probably for different reasons. Like, INFPs probably do it because it's how they be true and authentic to themselves. It's what they believe, and they believe it strongly, and that's the truest representation of who they are, and they care about other people. So they put themselves into protests and things because they feel so strongly about injustice. And I think INFJ's perspective on that is a lot the same, but I think they're kind of maybe also thinking about things like systemically and looking at underlying causes and how the system has broken down, and trying to work to free people. Yeah, you might see a few at a protest. Meetups. I've been to quite a few meetups, and the reason I have meetups on this list is because it is the kind of like social gathering that an INFJ can be cool with, because one, it's opt-in, so I get to choose what meetup do I want to go to, so it's based on my interest or whatever, so it's centered around some kind of interest that I already have, so I'm already going to know things about it. Like, if I go into a virtual reality meetup and I know a lot about virtual reality, I can be confident that when I get there, I'm going to be able to talk to people about what I'm interested in, and they're not going to just look at me with their eyes glazed over. They're actually going to be engaged, and they're going to want to talk about it, and we can have like a really interesting, engaging conversation. So like the premise of why we're getting together is really important, and the context, and like what I'm gonna get out of this. So then I can go and I can sit, and maybe I can hear some industry experts on something, and I'm gonna learn something. So that's also an exciting prospect. And I can also leave whenever I want. So nobody's gonna like hold it against me if I go for an hour and I leave. And then usually there's like food and stuff. So it's like win-win-win all the way around. Maybe the only downside being that sometimes the crowds are really big, and that just can be a little too much. But generally speaking, there's a lot of introverts at these kinds of things, and there's a lot of technologists and curious thinkers, and those are the kinds of people that INFJs like really want to be around and kind of pick their brains and stuff. So number 9, where else could you meet or see an INFJ? Well, at a quiet bar. There's been many times where I finished up work and went to a bar and found like it's early, it's like 5:30, 6 o'clock. People are just getting home from work, and I'm like sitting at the bar because the bar crowds haven't picked up. So everything's kind of quiet and the music's playing or whatever. You can order a nice drink. I like bourbon. And you can sit there, you can think about things. Nobody's gonna mess with you. You're just there to chill out. And you can kind of look out the window and see and watch people. And just let your mind kind of wander. So that's kind of the situation you might see an INFJ in. And lastly, eating alone. Not to say that INFJs always want to eat alone, but to say that oftentimes they will just go ahead and do it because it's not necessary for us to be around people to be able to entertain ourselves, to be able to enjoy the meal for what it is, and to think about what's going on. And we INFJs really like those times where you can stop what you're doing and just space out and like let things come to you. And sometimes like solutions to problems will come then, or sometimes it's about decompressing and understanding your own emotions or something like that. So there's like a lot of these little quiet moments that INFJs are kind of like taking advantage of when they come up. Those are never like wasted moments, really. Those are just like moments to think, moments to contemplate, or moments to drift away and whatever. And then, in a situation like an INFJ who's sitting alone like this might be like watching all the humans around them, like as an observer, just taking in the surroundings. They're taking in like the ambiance of the restaurant or whatever, the music, the feel of the place. Like there's an energy in every place, and they can feel that. And then all the people around, they're seeing like, they're trying not to be conspicuous. They're not trying to stare at people, but they'll take cautious glances around to size up the people around them and understand who's around them, what kind of people are they like, what kind of energy are they giving off. Just sort of like understanding the energy of the crowd. And if the energy of the crowd is feeling right and feeling good, then their mind can drift off and go other places. And it's like at that point they're not seeing. It's like a void. It's just an empty void. And you sit there and you're eating and you just stare into the void, and it's just you in the void. And that's when the subconscious speaks. So there it is. There's my 10 places to find an INFJ male. Should you disturb that INFJ male while you're out there? I don't know. So generally, you might put off an INFJ if you just approach them and strike up some conversation, because they're probably lost in thought, like 1,000 miles away. So what you've done is kind of just like brought them all the way back to where they are right now, and immediately the FE kicks in and they have to focus on managing your emotional state. So that's kind of, when they're lost in thought and they're eating, they're probably in the NITI loop, probably having insights and then like organizing those insights. But then when you talk to an INFJ, they immediately snap out of that and they're in FE SE mode. So they're like sizing you up, trying to understand, like trying to look at you, trying to look at your eyes, trying to look at your body language, and just feel your energy and get a sense for who you are and what you're all about. Like in that instant, like right away, they've sized you up. They've made tons of judgments about you, like tons of them. But that won't come across on their face. And then depending on what you say next, is they're just going to play. They're going to play off what you say, because they're probably surprised that they've been interrupted. So unfortunately, there's no like easy way. I suppose one way you could approach an INFJ male would be like to write a little note and slide that note to them and let them read it, and then they can decide how they want to react to that or whether to engage. And if they don't engage, then just drop it. But if they engage, then okay, there's some interest in engaging there. So give them a note. That's what I would say. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Please like. Please go to typologygifts.com. Check out my website. Actually, I want to show you that right now. Here we go. This is Typology Gifts. So yeah, basically it's like personality type website that gives you gift recommendations. So if you're, let's say you're an INFP and you want to buy a gift for yourself, or if you have a partner who's an INFP and you're like, what do I get them? Or a friend or whatever. I mean, so this is kind of like, it's not going to replace like a handmade gift, you know, like the handmade gift is like the best thing you can get for somebody, I think, because especially if it ties into something meaningful that means something to them. I wouldn't say all types are going to appreciate a handmade gift now that I think about it. Okay, but there are plenty of types that do like that kind of stuff. But for the people who don't want a handmade gift, or if you don't have time to make a handmade gift, maybe you'd want to go to Typology Gifts to find a gift recommendation because you don't have the time. So that's what Typology Gifts is all about. Surfboard, coffee table for your INFP. Why not? So yeah, go check out the website. It's free to use. It's just an affiliate thing. So like if you click this, it goes through to Amazon, and it doesn't cost you anything to use it, so you could just buy it right there. All right, thanks for, oh, that one's unavailable. You can't buy that one. but maybe it gave you an idea and you could go find a similar one that is available. Look, only $459. No problem, right? All right, thanks for watching.